Hello and welcome, everybody. I'm Dawn Campbell. I'm your host for the third in our final masterclass of International Mentoring Day. I was going to say coaching then for a minute. Mentoring Day. And I'm joined by the lovely Suzanne Pruss. Hello, Suzanne. Welcome. How are you today?
I'm excited. Thank you so much for having me.
You're very welcome. So today is a very special day, International Mentoring Day, 17th of January. It's a wonderful opportunity to thank, celebrate, and acknowledge all the mentors who have touched our lives, both personally and professionally. We might not know it, but we've got mentors all over the place. We don't have to have a formal mentor, but we've got mentors all around us in family, in work, etc. So this is a lovely opportunity just to acknowledge the work they do and say thank you. So we've invited three great mentors today. And as I say, Suzanne's the last in the presentation schedule. And here at the IAPC&M directory, we've got a lot of mentors, and I can see some of you online with us today, a lot of experienced and accredited mentors to support you if you need help in your personal or your professional life. So Suzanne Pruss is the manager of program development and training at the renowned Option Institute in the States. If you're watching here in the States, just give her a little wave. By the way, we're going to be taking questions as they arrive. So put them in the chat box as you can think of them. I'll make sure Suzanne gets that question, and then I'll invite you to unmute and ask in person. So Suzanne is a fellow of the IAPC&M. So she's at the top of the tree, the highest that you can be. And she was instrumental in getting several of the Option Institute mentoring courses accredited last year with us as well. A couple at level 4, but also a degree level 1 at level 7. Interestingly, Suzanne started as a volunteer at OI back in the early 90s, ended up falling in love with the organization and has been on the staff ever since. So what else can I say? Developing programs and mentoring especially is Suzanne's passion, as is supporting parents who are helping their children, particularly children who are on the spectrum, have the best possible life, a happy, healthy life, and reach their potential. So let's explore Suzanne's wonderful topic, which is the happiness GPS. And it's something that the Dalai Lama is often quoted as saying, it's what we all want. We all want to be happy and healthy, don't we? So it's nothing unusual, but it's a really difficult thing to achieve. He says we've never had so much and yet been so unhappy. So I guess the first question, Suzanne, is how is the Option Process mental counseling program different to, say, a more traditional route of being a mentor and offering mentoring?
Yeah, thank you so much. I love that question because, first of all, mentoring, traditional mentoring, the wise, experienced advisor kind of mentoring is so valuable, so precious and priceless, right? And very much needed in the world. And an Option Process mentor counselor, there's a tweak, a little bit of a difference here, because the way I'd say it is when we're mentoring someone, it's within the context, first of all, we're helping someone look at their own beliefs. So that's the context. That's the the very special tool that I'll get into that we use called the Option Process Dialogue. But the Option Process Mentor is more of a guide with our clients to be the hero of their own story being their own creation, their own life. So as a guide, we don't advise them what to feel, what to think. We actually help them find within themselves, go within themselves, because we trust that they have their own beliefs, and therefore they can know their own beliefs. Even if they start, when I first started, I didn't know my own beliefs that were there, but I wasn't, and you and I have actually talked about this before, Dawn, where, no one told me, for example, that I could be in charge of how I feel and what I think. I could learn new ways of thinking, new perspectives, but particularly my emotional state. No one really told me that I could create my own emotions at any time. And so an option process mentor uses the option process dialogue as a way to help people identify, access, uncover their own beliefs that in actual fact are creating their emotional state. So there's Gosha. I know Gosha. And actually Gosha is an option process mentor. She's gone through all of our training programs as well. So it's really fun to have someone here. So that's the difference, is you're guiding, as an option process mentor, you're guiding someone, you know, on a journey of their own beliefs, exploring their own beliefs. In fact, that's why we call the person we help and guide an explorer. Our client is the explorer. They get to explore their own beliefs. The purpose of that, the benefit of that, is that if you have an emotional state, you have an emotional experience that's uncomfortable, unhappy, anything like that, painful, right? You're embarrassed, you're feeling shame, you are deeply hurt, you're stressed out, you're overwhelmed. These are all emotional states that we experience, all of us. They come from a belief, a thought, an opinion about what's going on or about ourselves. And this is going to lead into our topic, which is happiness GPS. What is a happiness GPS? So at the Option Institute, the core of what we teach here is actually this model called happiness GPS. So that's what I'll jump into next, because it'll explain what an option process mentor does, what the dialogue is about, the purpose of it, but it's really about the happiness GPS.
Wonderful. Well, tell us more about it then.
All right. Look at hey, it's good to see David Monroe as well.
And it
I
would be
know
good
him.
to hear from, sorry, I thought it was our Gosia, but your lady called Gosia. It's the same spelling, but a different pronunciation. Be lovely to hear from her as well at some point, if you're not too shy.
Absolutely.
Good.
Oh, I know Gosha. She's not shy.
Okay. Good.
So yes,
So how did you come up with the happiness GPS, and how does it sort of bridge that gap with the mentoring?
Okay. So, well, the first part of the question is not about me. The founders of the Option Institute, Barry Neil Kaufman, Samaria Light Kaufman, this is over 40 years ago in the early 80s, right? They themselves had been, you know, they were just very unhappy. They were super unhappy. And they really, really, like a lot of us, like what you said earlier on, they're like, how do I get happy? And they actually were at the height of their lives. They were successful. They had all the trappings, you know, that everybody says, you know, that's a successful life. They had each other. They had a family. They had a very successful business. They were financially secure. They were blossoming in the world in that way. They were deeply unhappy. And with each other in their relationship, they were at a point where they thought they were going to need a divorce. And in addition to that, they had a child on the spectrum born to them. And that was another whole set of challenges, right? So they were recognizing that they were deeply unhappy and they didn't know what to do about it. And they started learning about the heart of how to become happier. This is simplifying it, but this is the heart of it, is to understand that your unhappiness, the experience of unhappiness, is coming from your beliefs about whatever, situations in life, yourself, right? Judgmental beliefs about ourselves. We all hold them, right? I used to have, my number one judgmental belief was, I'm not good enough. That would, you know, inform my entire life, my relationships, my work, learning, everything. I was constantly in fear because my reality is I wasn't good enough. So if ever there's evidence that someone rejected me, didn't like me, oh, that's because I'm not good enough. If I didn't get the job I wanted, that's because I'm not good enough. So I was operating, that was my operating system, was that belief. And so I experienced a life and the emotions that go with it from that belief, right? Someone else could have said to me, oh, yes, you're good enough. But as long as I'm holding that belief, I didn't feel it. So that's what was happening with them. And they started learning beliefs are actually a choice. In fact, Barry Neil Kaufman, we call him Bears, he wrote a book called Happiness is a Choice about the concept that we're going to dive into. So the choice factor is our power. It's our beliefs. If I understand it's my belief about, not getting the job, my spouse leaving me, I had a very severe accident and was disabled, and I had beliefs. I was very, very afraid about my future. Fear is beliefs too. So it all came down to that. And when they understood that's the heart of our experience, then they got really excited about how do we now uncover our beliefs, know our beliefs, access our beliefs. Why? To change them. You change your belief, you change your experience. If you want to go from discomfort to comfort, let me show you, I'm going to screen share if you don't mind, right? So the happiness GPS model is these 3 components that I'm going to screen share with you guys for a moment, just so you can see how it looks. This is it simply. These are the 3 components. Stimulus is the first part. Stimulus is the definition of just whatever you're focused on, whatever's happening moment to moment. There's a million things happening moment to moment, right? Our senses bring our attention to so many possibilities. If you're listening to me right now, paying attention, then in this moment, that's what you're paying attention to. That's the stimulus. Now, whatever you're paying attention to gets filtered through your thoughts about it, your opinions about it, AKA your beliefs about it. So the meaning you put onto something is your belief about it. So whatever is happening, that is the stimulus, it's just neutral, it's just what's happening. But our beliefs about it create the 3rd component, which is our experience of the stimulus, right? That is, we'll always have an emotional and a behavioral response. So our response to the stimulus is based on the meaning, that middle part. That's the key. That's the crucial piece, right? So I'll just stop sharing that. So, if just very, very simply, someone gives me my ticket, you just got fired, you're no longer working here. That's just what happened in that moment. I could have a million beliefs about this, and therefore, corresponding responses, experiences. So if my belief is, all right, I didn't like this job anyway, this is opening up, my opportunities to create more of what I want, immediately you can tell I'm going to feel good. My emotional response is going to be some kind of comfortable, happy, maybe it's just relief. And maybe the behavioral response is I go tell everybody, or I'm excitedly getting online looking for another job. But what if you have the belief, oh no, like me, this is evidence, right? I'm not good enough, right? Therefore, I'm going to feel depressed. I'm going to have the emotional corresponding experience to that. So it's that model, understanding that model takes us out of a victim mindset. Let me just clarify that for a moment. So using myself as an example, before I learned this, remember, I didn't know I could choose how I could feel. I didn't know anything about that. So I was like most people, I was taught what we call the victim model is stimulus response. I believed that what was happening in my life, AKA my boss fires me, I felt depressed, I felt hurt, was because of what he did, right? I didn't understand. No, it was my belief about it. And the reason why we call that a victim model, right, is because as you can start to hear, now I'm living a life where it's the circumstances in my mind, in my reality, it's the circumstances that dictate how I experience my life, how I feel, right? So number one, I'm always going to be victim to circumstances. Number two, I don't understand. I don't know. I have the power to choose it differently, right? And that's the game right there. So all in all, this is to say, if you feel uncomfortable, it's your belief about something, and that's liberating, not a reason to actually go, oh my God, I did something wrong. I shouldn't be believing that, or our beliefs were bought. There's a psychology magazine that had a whole study about, oh, I know Bente as well. It's good to see you. That's right. Bente is also another option process mentor, which is very exciting to have on the show. So there's studies that show that when, oh, I got distracted. Anybody else here in menopause? Where it's really, really easy to have your mind just go boop. All right. So here we are, going back to bears in Samaria. They just got really excited. They started practicing. Identifying, uncovering their beliefs, identifying their beliefs, and changing their beliefs. So just systematically, they looked at any situation. They're feeling uncomfortable. They're in a fight with each other. Okay, let's pause. So understanding the happiness GPS, another benefit of it is you take ownership of your experience, right? Victims don't have ownership of their experience, right? And that's, again, liberating. That's freedom. It's not that you're doing anything bad. Being unhappy isn't anything bad. It's just what you had learned. So what I was going to say to you earlier, I remember now, is that about 86% of our current beliefs as adults were adopted before the age 12. We've just been regurgitating them. Unless at some point in your life, someone tells you you could actually change that. A lot of people just keep, recycling the same old beliefs, right? And so that's what I was doing until I learned this. That's what Bears in Samaria were doing until they learned this. So they're the ones who created the option process principles, the happiness GPS, and the option process dialogue. So I'll go into that in a minute, but I just want to check if there's any questions or anything about that you want more clarity. But that's what the happiness GPS is about. So does that make sense?
Yeah, and it's very interesting. I remember I'm just started reading Brian Lipman's book, The Biology of Belief. I don't know if that's
Bruce Lipton. Bruce Lipton. Yes.
Lipton.
Yes.
The
Perfect.
Biology of Belief, and it's a very similar thing. As I say, I'm only sort of 30 pages in, but it's really interesting. It talks about choice. We have the choice, and it's that space between us thinking something and us reacting is where the real power is, and that we don't really grow up or can call ourselves adults until we realize that that is our responsibility.
Well, I've never heard it put that way, but I do feel more mature. Thank you. Yes, and I get that because again, the victim mindset where you sort of feel like you're just at the whim of circumstances, other people, situations, whether you turn on the news, whether it's someone in your face, you know, whether it's your body. I used to, after my accident, I felt, you know, I was betrayed by my body because, you know, just couldn't function. My body was taking away the life that I could live, you know? So yeah, when you understand the power to feel comfortable, to feel happy, is actually the power to create the life you want to live. So one of the little captions was how to live your best life, right? And so your best life is being your best self. Being your best self is knowing you're always in the driver's seat. So in my personal journey, let's say I would call it my journey of becoming happier, becoming more authentic, becoming more aware of who I am, what I want, what's true for me, right? Those are all the benefits of looking at your beliefs, understanding your beliefs, and then designing, recreating new beliefs, letting go the ones that no longer work for you, that are limiting, especially the judgmental ones that create unhappiness. The heart of happiness is you got a choice based on your beliefs. And so you can create this as a lifestyle practice. It's a new operating system to know that in between here, I get to be aware of, and I get to pause, like you said. I'm feeling unhappy. That's usually the first line of awareness. It's like, oh, you know, I used to be really nervous anytime I was teaching, anytime I'd get on stage, put a microphone in front of me and I'd freeze, right? And so that was coming from fear, nerves, coming from a belief. So I would pause and I would use the tool that we offer, that our option process mentors use to help and explore, guide them through their beliefs, called the option process dialogue. And all that is just questions, non-judgmental questions that the mentor uses to guide their explorer, right, to the heart of their beliefs. So I'll just use myself as an example. Being nervous, having a microphone in front of me, right? That happened a number of times and I got nervous every time. So I'm like, all right, I use the dialogue. I can use it on myself, or I can have someone else like Gosha or Bente, who are option process mentor, and say, please ask me some dialogue questions. And they would, you know, I could really be in that internal inward focus about myself, explore my beliefs. So for me, it was another version of, it means I'm not good. If people don't like what I'm saying, I get feedback, someone doesn't like what I'm saying, they didn't get anything from it, or they just didn't like me, they didn't like the way I looked. These are all things that are possibilities. I was afraid of those possibilities. But when I understood my fear, when I could face my fear, and then it comes simply to the decision, this is the choice. I can keep believing that and I'll keep having the same experience, right? I already know what that looks like. I've been living it. If I want to feel comfortable in the face of this, what is the new belief? What is a new belief? Even if I just want to try on a new belief, it doesn't have to be the ultimate new concept, right? What happens is you have this cognitive flexibility practice, right? You just ask, well, what could I believe differently? Well, what if it doesn't mean anything about me if someone else is judging me? If someone doesn't like, what if someone doesn't like what I say? Why does it have to mean it's bad about me? What if it doesn't? And I would start shifting that way inside myself. Now, I just really, really believe I'm here on purpose. I wouldn't have, we wouldn't have arranged this. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't going to be useful for someone some way. And it's okay if 9 out of 10 people don't like it, because I'm doing what I love to do. And I know other people, there's evidence already on screen, have found this modality really helpful for themselves. So both Bente and Gosha, as you know, we have 3 training programs around learning the option process dialogue, right? Learning to be an option process mentor using the dialogue questions. So the first level is just called, it's a week-long program called Power Dialogues. I got a book behind me, actually, that's the manual. So, so that was written by Bears and Samaria Kaufman, the founders, because once they studied this and they started offering it as a service to other people and then creating programs because other people wanted to learn. So the first level is really for people like, you know, imagine like a novice level, right? Then you have an intermediate level and an expert level. So those are the 3 levels essentially: Power Dialogues, Advanced Power Dialogues, and then the mentor certification training. That's the expert level. So the first one is if you really want to be able to use this for yourself, you want to understand how to utilize the happiness GPS model again and again. So that becomes the way you view yourself, observe yourself, and you know, recreate your life. Become the best version of yourself by changing your own beliefs. Advanced Power Dialogues is where you want to be able to attain the skills of offering the option process dialogue to other people. You want to be at a much more, you want to be able to, maybe you are an executive and, you know, it's a very useful tool to be able to play out with the people you manage, to use in your meetings, in your managing, in your training. If you want to become an option process certified mentor, right?Maybe because you're already a coach or you're already a mentor, but you actually want to be able to hang your shingles like you are certified in being able to offer this to clients across the board. That's the 3 levels, and that's the abilities you can obtain. So it always begins with first you, and you utilizing it in your own life, like I did, and then being able to be of service to other people and share that as a service to other people. So I want to pause in case you or anybody have questions.
Yeah, so if anybody wants to contribute or make an observation or a question, just unmute yourself. A couple of things I was thinking when you were talking, Suzanne, was what sprang to mind was that sort of old-fashioned fake it till you make it type of thing with, you know, getting ready to be on stage. It's something that most people would rather die, supposedly, than do. I mean, you talked about getting over that fear, which a lot of people have, and I'd like you to go into that in more detail, the technique that you went through step by step. That would be really useful. And I'll leave my other comment to give other people a chance, but any questions, anything anybody wants to add while we just take a little pause?
And also, I was thinking if either Gosha or Bente, you know, because you've gone through the training and both of you began like me, right? Wanting to learn this for yourself before you even thought about, okay, how could I be of service to other people and offer this service to other people? You know, do either of you have a story or where either learning the option process dialogue or even beginning with the happiness GPS, right? The stimulus belief response model. In understanding that, I've already shared how for me, that was like freedom. I went from like, oh my goodness, I'm not a victim and how I'm feeling isn't dictated by anybody else or anything else, but actually now I can really be in charge. Did either of you two have any experiences like that that maybe you want to share, or you know, a client or something like that? Because to answer your question, Dawn, that's where it begins. Is shifting, right? We're shifting from the operating system of being a victim, which is the stimulus response model, to stimulus belief response, understanding, oh, it's my beliefs about this. That's a different operating system to come from. So that's the first step, is understanding that as a baseline.
I can add something, not necessarily what you were just asking about, but I was thinking before when you were sharing about the courses, the Power Dialogues course, the Advanced Power Dialogues course, and then the whole certification process. So I want to share a little bit about that, and maybe Bente can share more about what you were asking. But I was thinking, as we were talking about these courses for people who are possibly already doing some coaching, they are either certified in some other modalities, or they are just have that feeling that they can do it, they have the skills, they have the heart for it, and they are helping people in the one-on-one basis. So it was kind of me. I was already exposed to the option process dialogue before I took the trainings. I was exposed to it in a way it was done for me. So I was the one using the services of the option process dialogues to explore myself, to look for different beliefs, to understand myself in a different way. And then I was already using that process and everything I learned with that to help also other people. And I was attending different courses about that process, learning it deeper. And then I took the Power Dialogues for the option process course. And you know what? I thought that it would be really basic, and it was. It was definitely an introductory level. And the main thing that I've learned that created the biggest change that I never expected that would be so big, it was to really differentiate the beliefs from the stimulus, the facts, the observations, and then the feelings and the actions that we are taking, the behaviors we do. And I know it sounds simple. I'm like, well, I was doing it. I was aware of it. There was nothing new, right? And yet it was. Like option process had such a different angle at looking at it that just taking that introductory course changed my level of the quality I was able to offer to the people I was helping right away. I realized that was so powerful. So I wanted to share that because I remember how this little course, just the beginning, how much it changed my ability to help other people and go straight to the issue, being able to differentiate that. So I don't know, maybe Suzanne can speak a little bit more about that, the way that the option process sees the beliefs and the observations and stimuli and how it is differentiated, because I think it's a little bit different than what we might have been exposed to previously. So that's from me about that training. And then the Power Dialogues, the advanced one, it was powerful in terms of the practice, but that's kind of a next step. So I focus on the first one.
Thank you.
Yes, and actually, if I may just add one thing to what you're saying, Gosha, is that that differentiating factor comes from within the training, a very clear focus and a deep focus. In an option process mentor has a huge attitudinal focus. And so in order to be able to listen, to identify the difference between what is a belief, what is a stimulus, what is someone's feelings that you were pointing to, Gosha, is actually you're learning attitudinal skills that fine-tune your listening ability to differentiate. And is, I think, really noteworthy because and this relates back to even what you said, Dawn, about, well, how do you become happier? We all want it. So the attitude of an option process mentor to be of service to someone else is actually you becoming happier yourself first. And so we focus deeply in how to be so present, right? We give you training, we give you tools, we give you ways, and we give you experience, how to be so present. You're not distracted, you're not in your own thoughts. You can just be right there for your explorer, your client. And that becomes useful in everyday life, not just in your sessions, right? Another attitudinal part, which goes back to the initial difference between, a traditional mentor, your wise advisor. As I was saying earlier, an option process mentor doesn't advise. We don't direct, right? We guide someone on the journey of their own beliefs because they know their own beliefs. That's why we trust the explorer to know themselves, even if this is the first time they're asking themselves a question like, why do I believe that? Or what is my belief about that? So, and it might take them a little bit of time, but that's the road to accessing their own beliefs can become a super highway just by practice. It's already there. You just might not have gone there yet, but it can become very, very simple, easy, fast. Because I know that because not only for myself, but everyone I've ever trained or seen going through training, that's what happens. And that's life. The more we practice a skill, we get really good at it, right? So we become experts at accessing our own beliefs, identifying our own beliefs, and then that next step of being able to change them, that's another whole piece. But attitudinally, the mentor creates this environment of not giving advice. Like, for example, have you ever had someone tell you what you should feel or how you are feeling? And you're like, I don't feel that way. That's actually not true. Right. And so, again, that has a place. But if you're there using an option process dialogue, you have an agreement to help this person in whatever way they want to become happier. That's what your explorer wants. And this is a tool to get there. So your side of it is only to guide them to what's stopping them, those beliefs stopping them from their own happiness, not telling them what they should believe or feel. So I just wanted to make sure I added that part, because that's part of the training, is to learn how to be in that attitude and offer that. So it's unconditional love is also another way you could name that.
And I think that model, Suzanne, would certainly make it a lot easier for us at the IAPC&M from an accreditation point of view, because traditionally, how do you accredit a mentor, say a sales mentor? It's we say coaches can coach anybody, anytime, anywhere, because it's a toolkit that you've got. Your questions are your tools. But for a mentor, you could only mentor, if you were a salesperson, you could only mentor another salesperson who wants to become the sales manager that you are, etc. You wouldn't go and mentor a brain surgeon. But the technique that you've got for your mentoring means that you could mentor across the board, which means it's much more inclusive, quite an accurate way of supporting somebody, very holistic, and it makes it easier for us to assess somebody's mentoring skills at a real level, a tangible level. I think, David, you're still on the call. What, if anything, would you like to add to that?
I would agree. I have an issue, well, not an issue, sorry, I have an observation around, the usual things like that you've said there, that the skills like around coaching and mentoring.
Oh, we lost you.
I think that the importance is knowing the client's language. But I think what you've just mentioned there, Suzanne, this about like when people say, "Oh, you make me feel," when you do that, and it's like, "All right, do I really?" So, and this, getting people, and I've had conversations, I've had dialogue, I've had discussions, and I've had stand-up arguments around the look. You're choosing to feel that way because of something else that's going on. I'm not making you just do that. If I had you at gunpoint, I might be making you do something. But in terms of fear, and I think that because, and it's just a personal view, but I think because in childhood, you're growing up with your parents going, "Don't make me angry," about this. That it sort of gets inbred that, oh right,
exactly.
Well, clearly that it's almost ingrained. And certainly
that's where the beliefs, just to elaborate on that, that's where the beliefs get started. That's how we get taught and how we get sold beliefs, right? Especially as children, because our parents are the authority. So if our parents are telling me I'm responsible for their state of happiness, I'm going to start believing I can hurt people, or I can make someone sad. I can make someone unhappy, right? Yes, that's where it all begins.
Yeah, and it's a transactional analysis, or the four key tenets in that is very much I can't make anybody happy, sad, I can't, so I encourage that. And and people can't, so you're like the reverse of that. You're like, they can't make me feel happy or sad.
Yeah.
Maybe something they do, I
Yeah.
choose to, oh, well, that's nice. And I think the other thing as well, so like around beliefs, when people say, oh, well, it's a belief, I can't change it, is like sometimes just taking them back to the basics and going, right, well, you're like, when you were a child, did you believe in the tooth fairy? Yes. Well, when did you stop believing in that? Well, you're like, when I found out it wasn't true. Okay, so you can stop. Yeah. Undoubtedly,
Yeah.
so like there'll be people out there who still believe in the tooth fairy, but that's a completely different conversation for a different day. But that I often find that just taking people back to basics, not making things overly complicated about that. When in your life have you held a belief that you've later found out that you don't?
Yes.
What was that just? So if you can do that, you can do it with other things that you can recognize things that are going on.
Excellent. And it's so true. And what starts happening, the more, let's say, the more you use the option process dialogue to uncover your beliefs, right? And you start changing them, the more and more, that flexibility of recognizing pretty much everything is beliefs, right? Most of us think so often that beliefs are facts, just like you were demonstrating. Right. But the more we start utilizing, what I'm feeling right now is really based on a belief. How I'm feeling is never based on a fact, other than I'm believing something about. I have an opinion, I have a meaning about something. That's why I'm feeling this way. And so that's the liberating factor is the more you experience, it's a belief. I can change it. That's my power. That's my choice. So I can have a new experience. It becomes easy. It becomes easy and fun, really fun. And actually, I'd like to highlight Bente, because Bente is, she came through the door. The Option Institute is also home to another part of what we teach that you alluded to at the very you mentioned a little bit at the beginning, is our founders, as I said, they had a son on the spectrum. So they had already learned the option process using the happiness GPS on themselves, made a lot of changes attitudinally. When their son, that situation, that stimulus of having a child on the spectrum came into their lives, their immediate response was, oh, beautiful. It wasn't, oh no, this is terrible, this is bad, which would have been their response if they hadn't made so many of their own attitudinal changes, right? So life brought them this next challenge that they got to apply, the understanding that their beliefs is powerful here. So their beliefs was, all right, we don't understand this thing called autism and his behaviors, but we love it anyway. We're going to explore it. We're going to investigate it. We're going to, bring our love to that. And from there, over a period of 3 years, they brought their son out of autism and created a whole program that's worldwide. So Bente actually came through that doorway, right? She has a son on the spectrum, and she learned what's called the Sunrise Program method with her son. And then she decided to go the next step for herself to become an option process mentor because of how valuable learning about her beliefs, changing her beliefs, recreating her life by changing her beliefs was so powerful for her. Is there anything you wanted to add to that? I just wanted to highlight you there, Bente. You have to unmute, I think. Yeah.
Do you hear me now?
Yes,
you do. I can hear. It's so good to be here. First, apologies for entering in so late, but I couldn't really get the Zoom working, so it took a bit of a while. But yes, for me, it was a life changer and a lifesaver, because I came to London on a Sunrise Starter back in 2002, January. And my lovely, beautiful son Magnus had regressed into autism. I didn't really know what autism was. I just knew he was very, very sad and very sick. And he was the second of my 3 children. I had an infant also. And it was such a life changer in a negative way. I was so devastated. It was like him having Alzheimer's, super Alzheimer's, because he lost his soul in a matter of only a few months. And this beautiful toddler who could walk and talk and sing just regressed, shriveled into nothing. He didn't even look at me. And I was came to London, and I was like, really? So how do you feel about Magnus's autism? I'm just devastated. Why? Well, isn't it obvious? I mean, he's autistic, so that was like the stimulus. I just saw my son changing, and my response, of course, was devastation. How could a mother react in any other way? And then they started digging. But what do you actually believe? And as I talked about, well, he's autism, but it means that he will like never marry. He might never talk. He might, but why do you believe that? And then as we drill down, I thought, well, why now? At this point, do I choose to believe that and really focus on grief and just being totally devastated? It didn't really help me. I understood that. It didn't help Magnus either. And I had 2 other small kids. Really didn't help them that I went around. It was totally devastated. So that was like you said, Dawn, that was the moment I realized, and you call it beliefs, David. It was the moment I realized there's something in between here, in the little moment, that I can actually choose what I want to believe. And I don't know about the future. I'm not a wizard or can tell about the future. I only know about now and today. And it was coming home, and I also thought on the plane back home, I thought, my gosh, every time Magnus looks at me, I'm sad, because I'm so sad for everything he's been through. How does he feel? He sees his mom in tears all the time. And it was like a huge, huge life changer coming home and also seeing his response, even though he still had autism. But I changed my beliefs around it. And it was such a, I don't know how to put it. It was such a magnificent life changer. And all the people around me noticed the change, because I was maybe in between. I remember maybe I lay down and cried just for a little bit in between. But for most of the time, I thought I can actually choose to think of this as an adventure. We don't know. We only have today. And just keeping in the present. And if I was devastated, well, what was the thought I had? What was the belief I had now? And just such a magnificent way of changing the whole trajectory of the rest of my lives and our lives. And Magnus still has autism. He's 25 now and lives in my neighbor house, and things has actually gone quite nicely. But just the immense change from going from a stimulus, something awful happens, or I believe it's awful, or something I read, something I see, whatever. And my response is devastation, anger, whatever you want. It could be joy also. But realizing that I am, as you said, I'm the adult one here in the middle, and I choose. And going from that point also to learning the technique, taking the power dialogues, learning what simple questions, really simple questions can you ask a person to help that person explore as much or as little as that person chooses to. Because you come, as Suzanne said, with love, non-judgmental. You really just want the best for them, but you also know that they have their answers when they're ready to acknowledge it. David, it's like, it's actually their cup of tea, if you might say. But you can ask these really simple questions, and then when they're ready, they come to their certain, come up with a belief. We can question the belief, and maybe they see it. Oh, what would happen if I changed it? And it could be like a major game changer, like it was for me. I've also got numerous other examples, of course, but it's like it is such a powerful tool, and it's like you said, you can actually come from anywhere and in any context. And I've used it in my work. I've used it for my presentation anxiety. I used to be using a shrivel for a 10 minutes presentation, and I thought, what do I believe? Oh, I believe I'm an appallingly bad public speaker. That was was my belief. And I had a job. I had to do it. And with all the other things going on in my life, I really didn't have the time or capacity to spend literally half a day to prepare a 10 minutes presentation. So then I changed it just a little bit. Like Suzanne said, okay, what can I go with? I cannot go with I'm a good public speaker, no way. But I can maybe just change it to I'm an okay public speaker. I'm good enough. And that just took the load off and just changed. And now I am a good public speaker, by the way. But I believe, right or wrong. But it's powerful. And basically for all people, everyone we meet in every context, is the little moment between your stimuli, whatever that is, and the response we choose based on the set of beliefs we hold at that moment.
It's interesting. You've both mentioned the simplicity of making that switch in your understanding, but that often means people underestimate the value of it. And what I'm also hearing is that to be an option process mentor, I think you probably need a characteristic of courage to really go there and not let your client remain in victim mode, and to dig a little bit deeper at what might seem like a sore, and to keep digging until they have that realization that they do have the choice. They don't have to be in victim mode, and not to let them be in victim mode as well.
Well, using the option process dialogue with a client, you're going to first teach them the happiness GPS, because otherwise the questions won't make sense. If someone's in the stimulus response mindset, right, and they're not, it means you don't have an agreement with them for them to look at their own beliefs. So in that case, and this is something I tried to do with my mother, in that case, we would actually call it a option process tormentor. If you start asking those questions to someone and they're actually not there to look at their beliefs, believe me, I tried that with, because this is all about how can you go from discomfort to comfort, be happier, right? Like truly, that's one of the primary benefits of using the option process dialogue. So my mom, who I talk to every week, she's in Australia. She gets very unhappy. She complains a lot. And when I first learned this tool, I was like, oh, I know how to get her happier. I know how I can get her happier, right? It would be so much nicer if she's happier for me. So I'd start asking her questions. Well, why do you feel that way? Why do you think that way? These are dialogue questions. And, within a minute, she's like, what are you doing? Stop asking me those questions, right? I don't want that. She wasn't there to explore her beliefs, to change them. She just wanted to complain. And that's when I really understood, I can't push this on anybody, right? But it's a valuable tool. It's a valuable methodology. It's a way to get happier that I've used, and I've really changed my life. Everybody here, Dosha and Bente, same thing. So, but we can't make someone else. So that's just a reminder there, and why learning, training to become an option process mentor, we focus so diligently and powerfully on our own attitude first. The questions are simple, super simple. They're not rocket science. We didn't make up, how are you feeling? Why are you feeling that way? What's your belief? Why do you believe that? We didn't make up those questions. But the power of those questions comes from the delivery of no judgment, no direction, no right or wrong, pure exploration, curiosity, right? Just to investigate. And it makes all the difference. And someone cannot be a certified option process mentor if we don't deem them able, whatever length of time their session is with their client. Typically, we do a 15-minute session. If that person isn't able to put everything in their life aside and be fully there for the client, 100% unconditional, non-directive, and present, they won't get certified. And so part of that certification program is us establishing their ability to do that.
Yeah. Well, I really encourage all the coaches out there to explore this, because increasingly I'm seeing the need for coaches to have a mentoring skill as well. So as long as it's explained in the contract, you know, that I can be coaching and I can be mentoring, so that you've got that permission and that agreement, then I think this is really the next step to developing your skill set. Obviously, self-mastery is always the thing that we're encouraging anyway. First, know thyself. But increasingly, coaches are being asked to mentor. And this seems like an obvious program. As you say, Gosha? Is that how I pronounce it? Gosha? Yeah. To add and then bring a wider service offering to help even more clients. So because of Suzanne's lovely gifts, I'm going to be able to, in a moment, I'll put in the chat box a link to the dialogue and a code for you to access it. But I've also got some gifts for you that we will send to you after this call as well.
Yes, yes. Anybody who registers, whether it's live now or in a replay. So let me just tell you what they are. Carrie says, great. Yeah. So first of all, there's a gift. There's oh, we get to see your face. How beautiful. You're all lit up. So first of all, there's an MP3. It's about 15 minutes long that is teaching in more depth than we had time today about the happiness GPS. So that's in there, and added within that is a piece that we call happiness IQ. So something you said right at the beginning about being more emotionally mature, or just being more mature, it's because when you understand that your beliefs are creating your experience, and then you get in the driver's seat about creating your own beliefs, we call that, you know, becoming emotionally fit, or, you know, having a high happiness IQ. The definition of that is the ability to be able to change the way you feel in relation to a stimulus, right? So it's not that we're not measuring how often you're happy versus how often you're unhappy in the day. It's not a measurement of that. It's the measurement of like, oh, I just became aware I'm unhappy as a response. I just got into judgment. And then I'm shifting that because I'm using my tool to shift that. So the ease in which you can do those shifts and regardless of the stimulus, be more and more comfortable and sustain that, that's the measurement of a high happiness IQ. But it's based on your beliefs around, you know, do circumstances affect you, or is it you're in charge here and you get to create it? So that's a 50-minute MP3 that goes into more depth, so you can kind of like, you know, review it and go deeper with it, understanding that the core of what we teach in that model. And then there's a PDF that goes with it, similar to the one that I shared. There's some additional examples on there just to illustrate the model. And then we wanted to, if anybody who is interested in doing any of those programs, the series, the Power Dialogue is the first level, and then Advanced Power Dialogues, and then certification. So we are offering a $100 discount for anybody who is interested in wanting to do those programs and learn these techniques, learn how to be an option process mentor using the option process dialogue tool. So that's all coming to you in the email. And then, yes, that you're in that. Oh, awesome. Carrie's interested. So you're going to get that in all that information in an email, Carrie, and anybody else. And what did you put in the chat just now, Dawn?
I've put the link to the Power Dialogue with the code.
Okay, so that's the Power Dialogue is the training program, the first level training program. The link goes directly to our website page if you want to register. But if you want to talk to someone and you have some questions, you're welcome to speak with me. I'm happy to answer any questions about that if you want to go further. But that code is for anyone who's here registered for this webinar, and you get a $100 discount for attending.
Lovely.
That's it.
I think it helps.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, we want to support. Especially because you're in the industry, you're in the community of coaches and mentors, and we really want to support people out there helping other people. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. So, Carrie, are you able to put in the chat my email
Yes, I
address?
will.
Thank you
Yes.
very much. Okay. So, Gosha, was there something else you wanted to add? Just wanted to check in. We are at time, though.
I wasn't thinking of adding anything, but I can add something. I'm sure.
That's okay.
Maybe,
I'm not putting on the
maybe
spot.
I can add another part about the actual mentoring session of the Power Dialogue, not the course, but when you have that one-on-one experience. I know for me, from the point of view of a mentor now, right? Because before I spoke from the other point of view, kind of. But staying with the mentor, I know that one of the big changes for me when I really adopted that point of view of the option process mentor was to not look for or focus on my client, my explorer, getting more happy or getting to any goal or getting anywhere in particular. It was just to be there, to give them space for them to be wherever they want to be. So if at the end of, let's say they start the session in, the victim mode and unhappy and blaming or angry, whatever it is, my goals switch from before I want to help them. And for me, it meant I want to help them to be happy. When I adopted the option process perspective, I want to be helpful for them, but it's not, I don't choose the destination, what that help means. It's wherever they want to go. So if at the end of my session, they are even more unhappy, even feeling even more victimized or whatever it is, more as a victim, I have now this belief that this is the best for them. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in that moment. And what I can do during my sessions is to offer them opportunities for them to clarify what is their reason to choose that for themselves. And usually they also find out that that reason is beneficial to them in some way. So yes, it might sound like it's hurting them in quotes, but actually it gives them something. And I think that was a huge change in how I was approaching the sessions. And I also noticed that that resulted in the huge change of how the clients were able to use it. And I'm speaking of that because I know it was such a huge thing for me when I still use the dialogue for me as a client, and I never liked when somebody was telling me what to do. Oh, you can do this, you can do that, you can feel this, you can feel that, and that's how you can achieve it. Yes, I guess, but I never liked that idea. Like I saw they want to help me, but I was like, you don't know enough about me. You don't know this, and there is this part and that part. And then I wanted to explain, but then I didn't want to waste my time explaining because clearly they weren't even interested in listening because they already found the answers in their head without really having my whole backstory. So when I had the dialogue and there was just space for me to come up with my own answers, with my own wisdom, who would have thought I have some wisdom inside, right? But yet I found there are some answers I can come up with for myself. And I know it was such a big relief, like, oh, I can just be here, put my thoughts out there, see what's my operating system in my head, how do I put it all together, which then gave me that freedom to make different choices for myself. So now as a mentor, like this is such an important part and such a different part for me that, yeah, I thought I mentioned it. I don't know if it's the same or different for you, but for me, it was definitely a difference with the option process dialogue to focus more on giving the space for them to clarify things for themselves versus for them to become more happy.
Thank you.
And I'm sure you've got thousands, Suzanne, of enthusiastic like Gosha and people who have been empowered and gone through the training program, who are just great ambassadors for you all over the world. And maybe our Kerry in the States will be joining as well, that team, and more who listen in and benefit to this afterwards.
Well, thank you for having us. I didn't realize I was coming with the team, so that's really awesome.
No, that's very beneficial. Thank you. Really appreciate you all taking the time out. So we need to wrap up now, but even though there hasn't been a huge amount of people on the call, more people have registered for it. So, you are going to be heard by a lot more people. Even the call this morning had nearly 100 people by now watch the Facebook Live. Just they didn't register for the call because they know they can watch it live. And then there's the people who registered and think, well, I'll listen to it in my own time on my MP3 player or whatever on the train. So I'm sure your time and your words will have a lasting impact. So thank you, especially to you, Suzanne, for explaining it in such great detail, and sharing all the wonderful work you are doing. And I will send out an email to everybody, and we'll give as many people as we can the opportunity to benefit. We'll make sure it reaches the widest possible audience. Keep up the good work.
Well, thank you. And at the Option Institute here, we are actually really thrilled to be accredited by your organization, not just me, but with the 3 programs, and how we feel how valuable that is to have that in our back corner as well. So we're really grateful to be partnered in this way. So thanks for offering that and providing that platform, but it's a security, it's a benefit. So we're so happy we're here.
Oh, well, we're really happy as well, because it's okay somebody coming online and just buying, a course accreditation. That's one thing. But, somebody like your organization who really did their due diligence and challenged us every step of the way, it makes it a really much more meaningful relationship. So thank you for that feedback, Suzanne.
Okay. Take care. Be well.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.